The Unbreakable Dream, a story of triumph. The fluorescent lights of Willow Ridge High School's science classroom flickered faintly as 15-year-old Nathan Carter hunched over his notebook, sketching what appeared to be a mechanical blueprint. His fingers, calloused from countless hours spent tinkering with spare parts in his makeshift workshop at home, moved with precision. The garage, his sanctuary, was a space his father had carved out for him, a place where dreams were molded into reality. Today, however, Nathan's focus was broken by the sharp, authoritative voice of his science teacher, Ms. Lorraine Whitaker. "All right, class," she announced, smoothing the creases in her navy blue blazer. "Let's talk about something important today, your futures." A murmur ran through the classroom as students exchanged nervous glances. Nathan glanced up briefly before returning to his sketches. He was working on a redesign of a combustion engine component, an idea he believed could revolutionize fuel efficiency. "Nathan Carter, MS." Whitaker called sharply. "I assume whatever you're drawing can wait." He quickly closed his notebook, meeting her gaze for a fleeting moment before dropping his eyes to his desk. "Yes, ma'am." "Good," she said, continuing her speech. "Each of you is at the stage where you must start thinking realistically about career choices. So let's hear it. What do you all want to be?" One by one, students shared their aspirations: doctor, lawyer, business executive, teacher. When it was Alicia Bennett's turn, she responded with confidence: chemical engineer. MS. Whitaker smiled approvingly. "Excellent, Alicia. With your academic performance, I have no doubt MIT will be interested." Then, inevitably, her attention turned to Nathan. "What about you, Nathan?" she asked. "What do you see in your future?" The room grew quiet, all eyes shifting toward him. Nathan hesitated, but then gathered his courage. "I want to be a research scientist," he said. "I've been working on an engine modification that could improve fuel efficiency by nearly 50%. A silence followed. Then MS. Whitaker laughed. At first, a small chuckle, but it quickly grew into something louder, something dismissive. "A scientist?" she repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Nathan, ambition is good, but we must be realistic about our capabilities and backgrounds." Heat rose to Nathan's cheeks. He clenched his fists under the desk as she continued. "Perhaps a more suitable career path would be auto mechanics. You enjoy tinkering, don't you? Or retail. The Quick Mart on Lexington Avenue is always hiring. Even food service offers stability." A few classmates exchanged uncomfortable glances. From the back of the room, a voice spoke up. "That's not fair, MS. Whitaker." It was Darren Cooper, a lacrosse player who rarely spoke in class. "Nathan got the highest score on last month's physics test." MS. Whitaker's expression hardened. "That's enough, Darren. I'm simply encouraging realistic expectations." She turned back to Nathan. The words unspoken but clearly understood. "Someone like you doesn't belong in a research lab." Nathan sat still, his expression unreadable, but inside, something shifted. MS. Whitaker expected him to shrink under her words, to accept the limitations she imposed. But instead of planting doubt, her laughter had ignited something else entirely: determination. That evening, Nathan avoided the main streets on his walk home. He needed time to process. He passed through the quiet, cracked sidewalks of his neighborhood, his mind replaying MS. Whitaker's words. By the time he reached his modest two-bedroom house, he had already made up his mind. He wouldn't let her define his future. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by the scent of lemon polish, a familiar sign of his father's Sunday cleaning ritual. "That you, Nathan?" Thomas Carter called from the kitchen. "Yeah, Dad." His father, still in his hospital scrubs, after a long shift as an orderly, looked up from a pile of bills. "Everything all right?" "Yeah, just school stuff." Thomas studied his son's face, but didn't push. "There's chicken and rice in the fridge. You hungry? Maybe later. I need to work on something in the garage." His father nodded, and Nathan made his way to his workshop. There, surrounded by half-disassembled engines and old textbooks, he felt at peace. Above his workbench hung a framed photo of his mother, who had passed away when he was 7. Next to it was the certificate from last year's district science competition, second place. He picked up a wrench and got to work. Here, MS. Whitaker's laughter couldn't reach him. Meanwhile, in the faculty lounge, MS. Whitaker stirred artificial sweetener into her tea. Across from her, David Chun, the math teacher, raised an eyebrow. You seem pleased with yourself. She shrugged. Career discussions. Just making sure my students have realistic expectations. Anyone in particular? Nathan Carter, she said. Smart kid, but lacks focus. Thinks he's going to be a research scientist. Chun set down his sandwich. Nathan scored highest in the state math assessment last year. Test scores aren't everything, she countered. The scientific community requires more than just grades. It takes connections, resources, a certain background. Chin's expression cooled. Funny. My high school counselor once told me something similar. Good thing I didn't listen. In the weeks that followed, Nathan threw himself into his project, poring over research papers and refining his design. He barely spoke in class, but arrived early to use the library's computers for research. His father noticed a shift. One evening, while they washed dishes, Thomas finally broke the silence. Son, what's going on at school? Nathan hesitated. Then, in a quiet voice, he admitted, a mess. Whitaker laughed at me, said I should be a mechanic instead of scientist. Understanding darkened his father's expression. I see. It doesn't matter, Nathan said quickly. She's wrong, and I'm going to prove it. Thomas nodded, pride flickering in his eyes. Good. That weekend, instead of taking an extra shift, Thomas joined his son in the garage. He didn't understand the engineering details, but he could hand Nathan tools and listen. And that, Nathan realized, meant everything. The following Monday, an announcement over the school intercom changed everything. The first annual Willow Ridge Innovation Science Fair will take place in May, Principal Carter declared. Industry professionals will be in attendance, and scholarships will be awarded to outstanding projects. Nathan's pulse quickened. This was it, a chance to let his work speak for itself. As he filled out the application, he made his way to MS. Whitaker's desk. I'd like to submit my engine project for the fair. She scanned the form, her expression unreadable. This is ambitious. Yes, ma'am. She hesitated. You understand these are industry professionals, not just teachers? Nathan met her gaze steadily. I understand exactly who they are. Something flickered in her expression, but she said nothing. She simply filed the application. Nathan left the classroom, knowing that his journey was only just beginning.